I still remember the echo of his voice, sharp, raw, final. Get out. My father's words cut through me like glass, and in that moment, I thought I'd lost everything. Now, years later, I wake up in a place he could never have imagined for me. Morning sunlight spills through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my villa, brushing against the white marble floors. I slip my bare feet into the soft Persian rug and tug the silk strap of my robe back over my shoulder. Outside, the pool water shimmers like liquid sapphire, and beyond it, the city hums quietly, unaware of the secret I keep. To the world, I'm composed, successful, a woman who built something out of nothing. But inside, there are truths I've never spoken aloud: the loneliness, the exile, the lingering scar of rejection. My phone buzzes against the glass coffee table, the vibration startling in the otherwise serene morning. I glance down. It's the hospital. A chill runs through me. My father's name lights up the screen in bold letters, but not because he called. It's his medical file. A voice tells me what I already suspected: his debt, the kind that crushes even the strongest men, has been cleared. Paid in full. They don't know who did it, but I do. I sink into the velvet armchair, clutching my coffee mug, letting the steam curl against my face. The irony tastes bitter and sweet at the same time. He told me to leave. I did. And now I live in the $3.2 million villa that quietly saved him. I was 21 the night everything broke. The air inside our house was thick with cigarette smoke and tension. My father sat slouched in his armchair, his jaw clenched, the television flickering in the background. I stood in the doorway of the living room, clutching my bag to my chest like a shield. I just need you to understand, I pleaded, my voice trembling. College isn't the only way.
I have plans, Dad.
Real ones. He didn't even look at me. He just exhaled smoke and waved his hand as though shooing away a mosquito. Plans? His laugh was bitter. You're a foolish girl with big dreams and no backbone. The world will eat you alive. And if you won't do as I say, then you won't do it under my roof. My throat tightened. I felt heat rising in my face, my palms slick with sweat. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for a chance. Just a little faith in me. That was when he turned, his eyes dark, his voice booming. Get out. The words hit harder than any slap. My mother flinched in the corner, but said nothing. Silence fell so heavily I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. I remember the sting in my chest, the way my hands shook as I gripped the strap of my bag. My heart screamed to fight back, but my voice was gone, locked somewhere deep inside. When I stepped out into the night air, it was cool against my wet cheeks. I remember the streetlight buzzing overhead, the cracked sidewalk under my sneakers. I had nowhere to go, no money worth speaking of, and no one waiting for me. But then, as I walked toward the bus stop, I felt the weight of something small against my wrist. My grandmother's bracelet. She had given it to me 2 years before, pressing it into my hand with a whisper. Never forget, Emily, you carry more strength than you realize. When they try to silence you, that's when you must speak louder. I rubbed my thumb against the silver charm, the memory of her steady eyes holding me together when everything else was falling apart. That night, I didn't have a home, but I had that bracelet. I had her words. And I had my decision. I wouldn't go back. Not crawling. Not begging. If my father thought the world would eat me alive, then I'd prove him wrong. I would carve a life from the stone he threw at me. The first night on my own was the loneliest I'd ever known. I rented a room in a crumbling apartment complex on the edge of town, peeling paint, thin walls, a mattress that smelled faintly of mildew. The kind of place where sirens sang you to sleep, and the hum of traffic never stopped. But it was mine. My own space. My starting line. I worked 2 jobs at once, waitressing during the day, cleaning offices at night. Some days I came home with my feet blistered, my back aching, my hands raw from bleach and detergent. More than once, I broke down on that mattress, whispering to myself, "You can't do this, Emily. You can't make it." But every time, I felt the cool metal of my grandmother's bracelet against my wrist. I'd turn it slowly, the charm catching in the dim light, and I'd hear her voice again. More strength than you realize. It kept me going. One night, while bussing tables at a diner, I met Rachel Lawson, a woman in her 50s with streaks of silver in her hair and the kind of confidence that made people stop talking when she entered a room. She was a regular, always ordering black coffee and a slice of apple pie. She noticed me sketching designs in the corner of my order pad between shifts. "You've got an eye," she said, sliding her business card across the table one evening. "Interior design. That's your handwriting, isn't it? Call me tomorrow." I did. And that call changed everything. Rachel became my mentor, the first person who looked at me and saw more than a runaway with shaky hands. She let me intern at her firm, teaching me how to turn empty rooms into living stories. It wasn't easy. I was broke, exhausted, and terrified of failing. But I soaked up every lesson, staying late to rearrange furniture, practice sketches, learn color theory, study budgets. The first time I pitched my own design to a client, my voice trembled so badly, I thought I might faint. But Rachel squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "Own the room, Emily. You belong here." And when the client smiled and signed the contract, I realized she was right. From there, it snowballed. Small clients turned into bigger ones. Word spread that I was talented, detail-obsessed, and relentless. I built my portfolio, saved every penny, and eventually launched my own design studio. But I kept my success quiet. Online, I posted only modest updates, busy with work, doing fine, never revealing the scale of my projects or the zeros in my bank account. I didn't flaunt the luxury, the clients who paid me in numbers my father could never imagine. To my family, I was just surviving. And that was exactly how I wanted it. Because I wasn't ready to show them the truth. Not yet. Not until the day I walked into a real estate office and signed my name on the deed to a villa worth $3.2 million. The ink was barely dry when I whispered to myself, "This is what he said I'd never have. This is mine." I didn't know then that the villa wouldn't just be my sanctuary. It would one. It was a Sunday afternoon when the knock came. The sound echoed through the villa's high ceilings, soft but insistent. I hesitated, standing in the foyer, one hand resting on the polished brass handle. Somehow I already knew. When I opened the door, there he was. My father. He looked smaller than I remembered. His shoulders, once squared with authority, had slumped. His hair had thinned, his skin drawn tighter around his cheekbones. Behind him stood my mother, wringing her hands nervously, and my younger brother, Jason, hovering like a shadow. "Emily," my father said, his voice unsteady. He glanced past me, into the villa's vast interior, where the chandeliers sparkled in the afternoon light. This is where you live." I let the silence stretch. I wanted him to take it in. The marble floors that reflected his weary face, the abstract paintings lining the walls, the clean scent of fresh lilies arranged in crystal vases. Every detail whispered of the life I had built, brick by brick, without him. "Yes," I said finally. My voice was calm, even. "This is my home." My mother's eyes widened as she stepped inside, her hand grazing the smooth banister of the curved staircase. Jason whistled under his breath, awe mixing with disbelief. My father lingered at the threshold, as if the air inside might choke him. You've done well," he muttered, but the words sounded foreign in his mouth, like they weren't meant for me. I guided them into the living room. Sunlight streamed across the cream sofa, highlighting the gold accents I had chosen myself. On the glass coffee table sat a single folder, the hospital's paperwork. My father's eyes landed on it, and I saw the flicker of recognition. He froze. "They told me someone paid off my medical bills," he said, his voice almost breaking. "The debt, all of it. Emily, was that?" "Yes." I cut in, my tone sharp enough to slice the air. "It was me." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's lips parted, as if to speak, but no sound came. Jason looked from me to my father, his expression caught between shock and admiration. "You," my father finally whispered. "But how? You had nothing. You left with nothing." I stood tall, my silk blouse brushing softly against my skin as I crossed my arms. I left with more than you realized. I left with courage, determination, and the strength you refused to see in me. His face crumpled, pride and shame colliding in his eyes. He opened his mouth, closed it again, then whispered, "Emily, Don't," I said firmly. "You told me to get out, and I did. I built this. Every square inch of it. I kept it quiet, I kept it hidden because I didn't need your approval. But when the hospital called, when they said your debt would bury you, I paid it. Not for you to thank me. Not for you to come here and pretend none of it happened. I did it because I chose to be better than the anger you threw at me." The room was thick with unspoken words. My mother wiped a tear from her cheek. Jason's eyes shimmered. My father stared at the floor, as though it might open up and swallow him whole. Finally, he lifted his gaze, meeting mine, and for the first time in my life, I saw him not as the towering figure who once ruled our home, but as a man, fragile, flawed, and humbled. "You've become someone I don't recognize," he said quietly. I leaned forward, my voice steady. "No, Dad. I've become the woman I always was. You just never looked closely enough to see her." I let the silence linger until it pressed heavy on all of us. The faint hum of the air conditioner filled the space, almost mocking the tension in the room. I wanted them to sit with the truth for a moment, the truth that I wasn't the fragile girl they had thrown out. Finally, I set my coffee mug down on the table and folded my hands neatly in my lap. "You're here now," I said softly, "so let's be honest with each other." Jason leaned forward, curiosity burning in his eyes. My mother dabbed her eyes with a tissue. My father, stiff and uncomfortable, looked as though every muscle in his body wanted to run. "You all expected me to fail," I continued. "And in some ways, you wanted me to.
Because if I failed, you could be right about me.
But I didn't. I built something better than I ever imagined. And I'm not here to gloat. I'm here to tell you what comes next." My father's brows furrowed. "What do you mean? What comes next?" "I paid your debt," I said firmly. "But that doesn't mean I erase the past. It doesn't mean you get to walk back into my life without accountability. If I'm going to help you, there are conditions." My mother's voice trembled. "Emily, conditions?" "Yes," I said, locking eyes with my father. "Dad, you don't get to scream at me, dismiss me, and then pretend it never happened. If you want to be in my life, you need to change. I need respect for my choices, my career, my independence. No more shouting me down. No more silence when you should stand by me." He swallowed hard, his face pale. "And if I can't, then you'll never set foot in this villa again," I replied, my tone unwavering. Jason shifted nervously, but I turned to him too. "And you, Jason. You're young, but you have so much potential. Don't waste it trying to follow Dad's footsteps of stubborn pride. Go chase your own dreams. Don't let anyone clip your wings because they don't understand your vision." He nodded slowly, his eyes wide. Finally, I turned to my mother. My voice softened. "Mom, I know you've lived your life in silence. I saw it. The way you held your tongue, the way you shrank into the background while Dad's voice filled the house. But if you want a relationship with me, I need you to speak. To stand up, even if it's hard. Because silence hurt me almost as much as his words." Her lips trembled. She reached for my hand, and for once, I didn't pull away. I straightened, my voice steady, my heartbeat calm. "I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for growth. If you want me in your lives, you need to show me you're willing to change, to heal. Because I won't go back to the girl you silenced. I won't bend to old patterns. I love you, but I love myself too." The weight of my words hung between us, a new gravity they weren't used to. For the first time, the balance of power had shifted. I was no longer the daughter begging for approval. I was the woman setting the terms. And whether they realized it yet or not, this was the only way forward. In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. It wasn't instant. It wasn't perfect. But I began to see small shifts, tiny cracks in the walls that had stood between us for so long. Jason was the first. He called me one evening, breathless with excitement, to tell me he'd signed up for photography classes at a community college. "I want to do something that's mine, he said, his voice full of nervous hope. For the first time, I heard in him the spark I once carried, the one Dad had tried to snuff out in me. Mom started, slowly, to speak her truth. She called me one morning and admitted, voice trembling, "I should have stood up for you years ago. I was afraid, but I don't want to live in silence anymore." It wasn't an apology wrapped in perfection, but it was real. It was her voice, finally breaking through the silence. And my father, he was the hardest. He came by the villa one afternoon, hands shoved deep in his pockets, eyes downcast. For the first time, he didn't fill the room with his voice. Instead, he sat quietly listening as I spoke about my work, my clients, my vision. When I finished, he cleared his throat, his voice rough with unpracticed humility. "You've built a life I never believed possible," he said. "And I see now it was me who lacked courage, not you."
"I'm sorry, Emily. It wasn't everything."
It didn't erase the years, but it was a start. That night, after they left, I walked out onto the balcony of the villa. The city stretched before me, glittering with lights, a reflection of everything I had fought for. I traced my fingers along the bracelet on my wrist, the one my grandmother had given me the night I left. Her words echoed in my memory, "You carry more strength than you realize." She was right. I had carried it through rejection, through loneliness, through years of proving myself in silence. And now, standing there with the weight of my journey behind me, I finally felt that strength settle into something steady. Something permanent. I smiled to myself, the cool night air brushing against my face. I wasn't the broken girl he screamed at anymore. I wasn't the runaway hoping for scraps of approval. I was the woman who walked out with nothing and came back with everything. And that's the story of how my father told me to get out, and how I moved into the villa that quietly saved us all.